Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in and checking in with me today. I want to speak into your life today. I want to encourage you about your identity. I feel like these last 2 years have really stolen a lot of our identity. And our identity can be stolen from all sorts of things, right? It can be stolen from hurt, pain, offense, rejection. It can be stolen from fear that we have, or doubt, or confusion. No matter what we're going through, somehow or another, the root of all those things ends up attacking our identity. It steals from us something that was spoken into our lives, something that we believed about ourselves, something that has some sort of influence of our gift and our calling and our purpose. And so when I want to give any kind of encouragement from the Bible, I always want to bring it out of the context of the Bible. And that's why this channel is titled God's Heart for You, because we can read and read and read all the words in the Bible, but if we don't understand his heart and we don't understand how he feels about us and what he's actually saying to us, we're going to miss a great big picture here. We're not going to understand a lot of it, and we're going to remain confused. So it's my passion to dig into this word and make it become so alive to you, make you truly understand what he's saying to you and how he feels about you. And so that's why I think identity is so crucial right now. And so I might be tackling this topic on several videos because it can come from so many different angles. But where I want to start today is in the book of John. It's so profound, and I bet many of us have read these scriptures in John and probably never even looked at it like it was an affirmation of Nathanael's identity. But I want to talk about that. In John chapter 1, Jesus is starting to gather his disciples, right? He's called Peter and Andrew, and he calls Philip, and he asks Philip to follow him. And so Philip gets all excited, and Philip goes and grabs his friend Nathanael. And he's telling Nathanael about Jesus, and he says, "Oh, you got to come see this guy. He's the one that we've heard about. All the prophets of old have talked about this Messiah, and he's finally here." And it's, if you could just picture the culture, I mean, it's the stories of old, of the true prophetic stories that came out of the old scriptures that their parents and their grandparents and their great-grandparents, would tell them, and they just longed to see that promise. And so now Philip finally sees this. He gets to follow him, and he can't wait to go tell his friend Nathanael. So he tells Nathanael, "Guess who's here? He's here. You got to come see him. It's Jesus of Nazareth." And the first thing Nathanael says is, and I'm going to probably digress here, but I have to pause because this is so important. So it says in verse 46 of John chapter 1, it says, "Nathanael sneered, 'Nazareth? What good thing could ever come from Nazareth?'" Well, if you know the context of it, so Nazareth, the prophet Isaiah actually talked about Nazareth. It was he kind of referred to it as a place of Gentiles. Like, it was kind of assumed to be like a backward community, and so that's just kind of the ideology that people had about Nazareth. And not to mention, point number 2 is when they were told about the Messiah, he was supposed to be born in Bethlehem. And so when Nathanael hears that Jesus comes from Nazareth, he's like, well, first of all, we know a little bit about that town. And second, wasn't Jesus supposed to be from Bethlehem? Well, no, Jesus was born in Bethlehem, but he was from Nazareth. I find it fascinating because right after Nathanael says this, it says that him and Philip start to walk back towards Jesus. And when Jesus sees Nathanael coming, Jesus says this out loud. Now, mind you, this is right after Nathanael just said this about him. It says, when Jesus saw Nathanael, this is verse 47, approaching, he said, "Now here comes a true son of Israel, an honest man with no hidden motive." Gulp. I mean, this is the beauty, the mercy, the grace. This is who he is. This is Jesus. And Jesus told the disciples, "You're asking me," he says this in his word, he says, you've asked me what God looks like, who he is. Well, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. You've seen him, because I am him. I am everything he's portraying. I'm portraying that to you. And so this is his heart over us. And this is his heart over Nathanael. He doesn't ridicule Nathanael. Why would you just assume just because of what you heard about Nazareth? Why would you say that about me? And he could have went through this whole speech and this whole correction and this teaching to Nathanael, but instead Jesus says, "Has everybody seen Nathanael coming? Look at him. He's an honest man, no hidden motive. He's a true Israelite." So it says then that Nathanael was stunned, and he said, "But you've never met me. How do you know anything about me?" And Jesus answered, "Nathanael, right before Philip came to you, I saw you sitting under the shade of a fig tree." And so he lets Nathanael know the heart of the Father is always, always with you. His eyes are always upon you. His eyes and his heart aren't there to judge and point. His eyes and his heart are there to recognize your full potential, your identity, what you've been called to do, and to teach you and give you some guidance and correction along the way. Because he wouldn't be a good father if he didn't want to teach you and guide you and correct you. He's there to reveal himself to you and reveal who you are to him, who he's called you to be. You have a very unique purpose. You have a destiny that nobody else in this world has. You have appointments and divine appointments. You have conversations that are in your future. You have things that you're going to put your hands to that are going to be blessed. You have creativity in your mind. You have these things that are in you. They're just like I said, they're in your fibers. They're in your DNA that only you can do, only you can fulfill, that nobody else can fulfill on this earth. That's how significant your life is. And beloved, a lot of that's been stolen from you only because we've been deceived. And that's one thing that Jesus said to beware of. Over and over, he says, don't be deceived. Don't buy into the lie. And so this is why identity is so critical. It's so very critical. And he wants us all to live in the calling that we were given, to live in our identity. And so if you take anything away from this today, I ask you to go ask this simple question. Go and be honest. I mean, be okay with being honest with God. He loves your honesty. He loves for you to sit down and talk to him. Even if you're arguing, complaining, screaming, or crying, then he gets the opportunity to turn around and say, "Now, let me tell you who I say you are." And then he gets to remind us of those gifts, of those callings, of those passions. He gets to stir up those old dreams we used to have, right? He gets to breathe like this fresh life into your soul. Look, if I knew exactly what that looked like or how that happened, I mean, I'd write a book about it and I'd probably make a fortune. God is a supernatural being. And sometimes it just takes us to sit down and wail it out. Just wail that mess out to him and just tell him, this feels unfair. This feels like I've totally lost everything I've been given. This feels like I'm all washed up. This feels like I don't have a purpose anymore. And then getting that out and just sitting and listening and letting him fill your heart. He comes in and he does something supernatural and he breathes that affirmation back into your soul. I think it's the first step that we need to make. We need to be okay with admitting to our Heavenly Father that we are confused and we just don't get it. We don't understand why everything looks the way it looks, why we are in the place we are. It's okay to do that. It's very okay to do that. He welcomes that because he wants to engage in that kind of conversation. No, I know you probably won't hear him audibly, but something will be transformed in you. I am a living testimony of that. So I'm not just telling you this because it's some, bullet point layout or format or formula that was in some sort of textbook. It's in the Bible and it's alive and it's real and it happens and it's truth and he does it and he does it again and he does it again and he does it again. So trust him. Trust him. He is waiting to meet you in this place. He is waiting to meet you wherever you are, whatever you're struggling with. And he does not condemn you for your doubt. He does not condemn you for your fear. He is not a condemning God. Jesus said, look, I didn't come to condemn the world. I came so that the world would be saved. like Jesus did with Nathanael. He comes to reaffirm you. He comes to speak back into your life and speak back into your identity. And as always, I will tell you again, you are loved, you are adored, you are always thought about, you are cherished, you are His beloved. Be encouraged, stay hopeful, and stay tuned in.